This clip is brought to you by VegasWinners.com. Get expert sports betting advice from some of the best handicappers in the world. Head on over to VegasWinners.com and win yourself some money.
You leave the WWF. Of course, we've said that story a million times here. And Steve Austin begins his rise. And the ringmaster is not long for this world. No longer does he have a mouthpiece in Ted DiBiase, or is he the $1 Million champion? And slowly but surely, he becomes Stone Cold Steve Austin. And around that same time, we'll call it the fall of 96, you're starting to come into your own on Nitro. Got the association with Ric Flair brushing up against the Horseman, going to be, challenging the Giant at a pay-per-view. So you're in a good spot, and he is too, and you're on separate brands. But then what do you know? Every October, 1 year after that's happening in October of 96, October of 97, it's time to revisit the old contract. And you wind up joining the World Wrestling Federation. And as the story goes, the narrative out there is that Vince Russo was really high on you, and that he had promised you this and he had promised you that in regards to, we're going to have you on top. You're going to be working with Steve. Now, let's remember, October of 97, Stone Cold is not the world champion. October of 97, Stone Cold is nursing a broken neck. He got dropped on his head by Owen Hart at SummerSlam just a couple months prior. He did win the Intercontinental title, but he can no longer defend it. So they've taken it off of him, and they're just letting him stun people and do interviews and build his character. And famously in September, they have the first Raw in Madison Square Garden. Cactus Jack debuts. Vince McMahon catches a stunner. Austin gets arrested. So even though he's not technically the world champion, anybody, and I mean anybody, can see, well, he's the next top guy. But he's not the world champ yet. He's not the tippy top of the card just yet. When you're sort of talking to the other side, you work for WCW, you're winded down, you're having conversations with quote unquote New York. Who are those conversations going through? Is it Jim Ross? Is it Bruce Pritchard? Is it Vince McMahon? Or is it what the narrative is? It was Vince Russo.
So before I answer that question, I want to make sure, and if you want to just say no, Jeff, we'll jump to that in a minute, but you covered the WCW time frame, and you mentioned the Horseman storyline, but you left out a little footnote. So I guess, on my 30th birthday, I wrestled Flair in Orlando, Florida on Nitro, which I'll never forget. But during that whole storyline, and I can't do a Kevin Sullivan, the devil impersonation, but Mongo and the Horseman and Deborah, and they wanted to do that storyline. And I never really saw how that fit, because Double J is, Deborah was the beauty pageant queen. So she needed, through my eyes, she needed a talent that would be, for lack of a better word, sort of subservient to her, cow down to her. And the Double J Jeff Jarrett was the flashy loudmouth entertainer that I'm going to strut right in front of Ric Flair. So I thought I needed somebody subservient to me, and me and Kevin Sullivan so had the discussions, and he said, brother, we'll make it work because you know how to make it work. And I'm like, okay. But anyway, that story picked up a lot of steam, and I've referenced this on here. Meltzer wrote in one of his newsletters, and this may or may not be fiction, but oh man, Jarrett may be the hottest heel in WCW during this era. So, but the Deborah McMichael component of this story obviously later comes into play in a major way. So I didn't know if this was the appropriate time, Conrad, to throw that in there. But I didn't want to skip over my time in WCW because it for sure relates to this story. So you want to say something, or you may keep going with answer your question?
You can answer my question whenever you get around to it.
You're in a bad mood. Jeez.
How am I in a bad mood?
I can just tell the look on your face.
I said, hey, who called Vince Jr.? And you said, well, not Deborah. And that's what happened.
Okay. So at when contract time was coming up, I signed the 1-year deal. I again, and I've said this, I knew literally Nitro One that this is a different company than I had been accustomed to, that there was no Vince McMahon. There wasn't no, Kevin Sullivan was booking. with a committee, but Eric was the boss. But then Eric also had Hulk and Savage, and you could just talk to those guys and knew that they were sort of doing their own thing. And then Hall and Nash were red hot. It was just a different organization. Knew it was run differently, and I knew that that just sort of weaving through everything, I think I'd like to give Vince another shot. And during that time, because business was heating up, and the guaranteed money was flying like crazy, and I, to this day, I've never been a big believer in using agents. Again, me and Vince had our relationship, but I just said, hey man, I'm not going to get an agent. So I'm going to sort of work with my dad. What better guy that can give me context and can give me some good advice and help me through this process. So not that my dad was my agent, but I'll say maybe an advisor, and talked to my attorney in Atlanta. And the first real point of contact was Russo had talked to McMahon. My father had talked to Vince, and then I talked to Vince, and we set up a meeting and flew up to Vince's house. The thing that I had no idea that had changed from 95, 96 in a major way. And, this is something that me and Jim ever get to sit down and really get granular on things, is that's the one thing that I had no idea. That when I left, look, Jim was an employee and an executive, but I had no idea the power that he had gained on putting together his team, his roster, his players, because I still thought it was a Vince McMahon completely run operation. I don't say that, but anyway, so my point was my day-to-day contact, or my point of reference, was Jeff Jarrett needs to talk to Vince McMahon. And that's what was set up. Flying to Vince's house, went up to Greenwich, went in and had the meeting, and Jim was there. And, we all talked amongst four of us. And that's how the meeting went down. But that was how, yes, Russo was a part of it, but it was more Jeff and Vince, and Jim Ross was there. Jerry Jarrett was there.
Is there anything said about working with Steve?
None, like zero. It creative wasn't even discussed, so to speak.
All that's discussed is the number of dates and the amount of cash.
Well, just the contract. And
but what's a contract if it's not the number of dates and money? That's it, right? That's a contract for wrestling.
It's just money. It wasn't even dates. I came to work, and I'm sure some guys, maybe not to my knowledge, but it wasn't. I was ready to come back. I guess if you had to sort of subtitle the meeting, it was Double J's ready to come back and get up on this horse again, and not literally, but figuratively speaking. And here's the money, and get off to the races, and let's do this. All positive. We knew it wasn't going to be some long-winded, high-level negotiation, either just by Vince. Unless I really screwed up, it was pretty much a given deal that, okay, I'm coming back to work.
So did you have a relationship with Vince Russo before coming back? Like, did you spend any time with him in 1995 before you left?
Oh yeah. He was a magazine writer. And this goes into the 94, 95. That was his job as a magazine writer, is to do features on talent. And I'll just say this diplomatically, the brash Long Islander, New Yorker that Vince is, not everybody was, I don't say not happy, not agreeable. Hey, it's a magazine. And I'm thinking, again, what you said, that I got the leg up in understanding. Hell, I wanted every amount of coverage I could get in 94, 95. So I did magazine features. We did photo shoots. We did the OJ Simpson thing was hot. Me and Road Dogg went out and did a feature in LA at OJ's house. But anyway, me and Vince struck up a relationship because I was a very agreeable talent to invest time in the magazine. And I just viewed it that way. So yeah, me and Vince's relationship started in 94 through the magazine exposure.
I know you said eventually, you're going to have to talk to Vince McMahon. Everything goes through Vince McMahon, blah, blah, blah. But I'm trying to get drilled down here, and I feel like you're not answering, and maybe it's intentional, maybe it's accidental. Did you have a conversation with Vince Russo prior to coming over to work, or prior to leaving WCW, prior to being on camera for the
yes. Yeah, but Vince was, hey, as I'll say, from a friend to friend, how's things going up there? What's going on? And those were not one conversation. I guess you could say in that year, I never lost contact with Vince, if that makes sense. Yeah, Russo.
Moving forward, let's say Russo and McMahon, just so we
Yes,
don't get each other tripped up. But
last names.
Hypothetically, did Russo float? Bro, I can see you in Austin. Do you remember that?
Never.
Okay.
Never. But those weren't the type conversations.
You think I'm making that up, but Russo said that you did. So I'm asking you because Russo it's out there.
What?
Russo has said many times that he wanted you and Austin to work together.
Yeah, but after the fact, after I got up there, I thought you're talking beforehand.
Yes.
Yeah. So none of those type conversations happened before I returned.
And then as the story goes, you're welcomed to a Monday Night Raw. This is October 20th, 1997. And I guess your contract was due every October. I think we've talked about that before here on the program. Your contract had been up how long with WCW before you're on this program here in 97?
So what's your specific question?
All right, you're here at the show October 20th, 1997. If you had to guess, when would you reckon that your WCW deal was up? How fresh off of your WCW contract were you?
Days. The first Nitro I could appear at.
The first Raw you could appear at.
My bad. Yeah, my bad. First Raw. Yes.
And so here we are now, and I believe it's Oklahoma City. Is that right?
You know what? What day? Because we're going to find something here. What day is this Raw?
It's a Monday, October 20th.
Okay. The China, and this is where it's sort of crazy recall. I think October 17th was, that because we'll know on the China deal, because it was the first day that I was out of contract. So whenever the Good Housekeeping match was the exact date of the rollover, dating back to the Double J deal, because it literally, Double J in 93 was a 3-year deal. And then it rolled over a year for WCW, and then a 2-year deal. It's like literally every October.
So just to, again, context is king. You're on this Nitro on the 6th in Minneapolis, and even. All right, let's run a timeout right now and give you a heads up. Attention, sports bettors. Has anyone ever given you $1,000 before? Well, Jeff, our guest at this time, is trying to do just that. Welcome to the program, the king of Vegas sports gambling and America's odds maker. It's Wayne Allen Root. Wayne, how are you?
Hey, Conrad. Hey, Jeff. I'm not trying to give you $1,000 free. I'm giving you $1,000 free at vegaswinners.com. That's my website. And I know so many people in the wrestling world love to bet on football. It's an American pastime. It's now legal in most states, a majority of American states. And guys love to bet on football. But I know people get skeptical and cynical. So even though I'm the best in the world, the media calls me the king of Vegas sports gambling, even though I've assembled the best team ever, 21 great sports handicappers at vegaswinners.com, and you have 21 heroes to choose from who all are very good at what they do, I still wanted to give away $1,000 in free winners at vegaswinners.com to make everybody come, register, and do their thing.
Yeah, it seems like you've got it all over at vegaswinners.com. You've got free picks, you've got the best bets, and you're doing it every single day. Not just yourself, but 21 champion sports betting experts. Dude, this feels like a deal that's too good to be true. It's fully automated. It's completely private. You'll never even speak to anyone. So go check it out. Get $1,000. Are you listening to that? It's vegaswinners.com. Just log on to vegaswinners.com. That's vegaswinners.com.
The 13th.
It's discussed there that I think it's just a backstage thing. Deborah slaps Mongo and you're standing nearby. And then 1 week later, So your last appearance is in Tampa for WCW, that Nitro, and 7 days later you show up on Raw.
Yep.
And I assume between the 13th and the 20th is when, during those 7 days, is when you flew to meet with Vince and took your dad and all that, right?
Maybe the meeting in Vince and Greenwich would have been several weeks before that, because I had to know if I'm going to have a deal.
Right.
I want to say a couple of weeks before, but that's a good question. But it wasn't. I don't think it was that week, because look, I don't. It wasn't that quick a turnaround deal, to my knowledge.
So somehow you guys, I guess what I'm trying to drive to is,
Yeah,
you don't have a deal when you appear on TV October 20th, 1997. You were not signed.
Oh no, I was.
The narrative is out there that they had a deal with you in theory, that we were working towards a contract, but you had not yet put pen to paper when you went out and cut the promo. The idea being, we know we're going to do it. Yeah, we're going to do business, but we got to get this angle going, this promo going. We're in the throes of the Monday Night War, and they're marching towards their biggest pay-per-view they've ever had, Starrcade 97. And along the way, they're going to do big business at Halloween Havoc 97. And we're in the fight for our life here, Jeff, and blah, blah, blah. So the story was out there that you, when you did this promo that we're about to play, you had not yet actually signed the sheet of paper, but you're saying that's not correct. You had signed.
That's semantics. So maybe a deal memo, but the terms, the dollars were agreed upon.
Okay. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.